In tonight's Fifth Gear, an Aston Martin that's been driven by two famous people. One J. Bond and one Tina Dell. And the new Renault Megane. It's edgy, it's wedgy, but is it any good? The other week, we sent our three most mischievous presenters off for a day trip to the Paris Motor Show. 3 hours on the train, a £5 to get in, and all that Gallic glamour sounded like a good idea to us.
Paris is one of the most respected shows of the year. With no less than 56 world debuts, it was packed with drooling punters and full of toys to keep the kids happy.
We start by saying hats off to the fact that even the most basic cars are being made interesting these days. Take one car, lose the roof, add some fun, and voila, a street car. It will be launched early next year, and prices for this little bit of jewellery will be around 14 grand. It's the first time Ford have hooked up with Pininfarina, and Kylie liked it so much she signed it. But the street car won't have things all its own way.
Not now that Smart, the people that invented this, have invented that.
The Roadster, they're calling it the Frog Eye Sprite for the 21st century. A two-seater, rear-engined, turbocharged, semi-automatic sports car for 10 grand. Now that's exciting.
But 700cc and 82 brake horsepower isn't. Nevertheless, 50 miles to the gallon equals frugal fun.
For a more traditional open-top experience, you need to come to BMW and the Z4, or Z Catra. A car that looks much better in the flesh than it does in pictures. BMW call all these creases and curves flame surfacing. Sounds a bit Burger King to me. But BM are spoiling for a fight. They're fed up of the Z3 being labelled as the hairdresser's favourite, so they decided to make a man's car. Gone are all the poncy retro chrome dials, replaced with this stripped-out interior that puts the focus on driving. The Z4 is supposed to stand toe-to-toe with the Porsche Boxster, and we'll let you know if it does in a couple of weeks.
Nissan, meanwhile, have come over all cute. This is the new Micra. All together now? It's another ordinary car made interesting with some grown-up features like automatic wipers, air conditioning, a keyless entry and parking sensors. Plus, it's got a rear seat that slides for extra comfort. We think it looks a bit nutty, but we rather like it.
At the Paris show, it's always the home manufacturers that show off the most, and no one's shouting louder than Citroen. They're boasting that this, the C3 Pluriel, is 5 cars into one. That's 5 down to 1. Right, like this, they call it a saloon. Then put the roof back and the windows down, and you've got a panoramic saloon. Tuck the canvas right away for the cabriolet. Remove the big roof pillars by hand, though I have absolutely no idea where you're going to put them, to get the spider. And drop the seats to get a pickup. 5 cars in one, more like one car with a funny roof.
Renault, meanwhile, are telling anyone who'll listen about the new Megane, the Megane 2. There is a 3-door sport hatch and a 5-door hatch. They say it rides better than a Focus and is nicer inside than a Golf, which sounds great. But is it true? Well, I don't know yet. Let's get our head around the way it looks first. Now, I don't want to hear any moaning about the boot looking a bit funny and obviously the work of some French eccentric. The new Megane's actually been designed by 1.5 Englishmen. Anthony Grade, brother of TV mogul Michael, and Patrick Lecamon, whose mum was a Brit. So there. The front's a tad tame compared to the rear, but at last, everyday motors are looking unique again. It's just as pleasantly surprising inside. No French flakiness here, just lots of logic. It's quite Germanic in its layout, classy but a bit straight-laced. However, there are secret compartments in the footwell. And boy, what a handbrake. And boy, what a key. The new Megane is the first offspring from the alliance between Renault and Nissan. You're not looking at just a new body, but a whole new platform. In fact, you're looking at the result of 9 million hours work and 1 billion quid's worth of investment. It's supposed to have made a sporty car, but is it sportier than class leader, the Focus? No, the Focus is a sharper drive, but I don't think that matters because these cars are driven around towns, not racing tracks. What does matter is that this Megane is very easy to drive, it's spacious, it's comfortable, and it is miles in front of the car it replaces. If this 3-door shape is a bit racy for you, Mother, then there's a perfectly handsome 5-door available too. Prices for the whole range start from £10,500 and go up to £15,500. There's the usual array of engines, but our absolute favourite was the 1.9 diesel. It's smooth, torquey and really rather fun. Renault are experts at offering a baffling choice of specifications. There are usually masses of confusing permutations, but don't worry, I'm here to help. Basically, the 3-door sport hatch comes in extreme or dynamique, i.e. nice or nicer. The 5-door comes in authentique, if you're easily pleased. Expression, if you want air conditioning. Dynamique, if you like your alloys. And privilege, if you really want to impress the neighbours. Then you get to choose your options, which come in handy packs like handling, climate, comfort, and luxury, leather. See, easy when you know how. Although, if you're still confused, then Renault will happily point out that the predicted bestseller, the 1.6 Dynamique, is not only cheaper than the equivalent-powered Ford Focus, but it's better spec'd. ABS, aircon and an alarm all come as standard. Plus, with Renault's growing reputation for safety, the new Megane's probably a nice place to have a crash too. The outgoing Megane range is pretty ordinary, but it's still managed to be one of Europe's best sellers. The new Megane, however, is better equipped, cheaper to insure, and much better looking. The world's gonna go nuts for it.
Time for a gentle reminder of our competition to win this glorious Bentley Turbo R. And take it from me, the man who's been driving it, this is one competition you really do need to enter. And it's so simple. To be in with a chance, just answer this very, very easy question.
What colour was the classic Bentley that won at Le Mans in 1927? Was it performance purple, sporting silver or British racing green? Call this number to enter, and don't worry, we'll show it again at the end of the programme. Lines close on Wednesday the 23rd of October, and you can also enter via our website.
The Aston Martin Vanquish. £160,000. Over 400 horsepower. Good for nearly 200 miles an hour. A truly awesome machine. And that was before it had these, and these. Now that's what I call options. After a 15-year gap, James Bond is back in an Aston Martin, and in his 20th film, Die Another Day, he's going head-to-head with a Jaguar XKR. And I'm here on the set of Die Another Day with both those cars. In theory, 007 should have no problem trouncing the villain's convertible XKR with his 450 horsepower V12. But just to make sure, they've added those little options, courtesy of Q Branch. However, for the very first time, the baddie's got gadgets as well, and he's got twice as many of them. There are rockets in the front, rockets in both side doors, a lethal Gatling gun on the back, and grenade launchers in the boot. The huge arsenals on these cars are real props, real mechanics, and not just the work of a clever computer. And this is where they're created, the Special Effects Workshop at Pinewood Studios. And yes, those are 4 identical Aston Martin Vanquishes,
and a couple of XKRs being modified for their individual roles. Each Bond film needs to be bigger and more spectacular than the last, so the challenge to create ever better gadgets must be met.
We deal with gadgets. You know, I've dealt with gadgets for I've done the last 7 Bond films now. I have been called the real-life Q. I am one of many Qs. There's 110 of us on the crew. There's some jolly clever chaps on the crew.
The biggest challenge on Die Another Day was that the main car chase was to be filmed on a frozen lake in Hoffen, Iceland. The Aston and the Jag are both rear-wheel drive, but the Bond team wanted 4-wheel drive for maximum traction.
We spoke with Aston Martin and Jaguar. I mean, initially I thought we'll just ask them for a 4-wheel drive version. And upon sitting down round a table with them, it was quite apparent there was no such beast or even anything even being thought of. So then it was really, let's sit down and see how we can make this work out.
That's your standard V12, what you buy at every Aston Martin dealer. And this is what we've done to that. Taken out that lovely Cosworth V12, good old iron, small block Ford. We pushed the engine as far back as we possibly could. We knew there were gadgets going in the front, so it left room for that. It also left us room to get another axle in to get the 4-wheel drive in. And then it's just a matter of threading your drive shafts around all that to get it to work.
Modifying the stunt cars cost £1.25 million. But even then, there is only so much you can do to stop a car sliding.
During the ice chase in Hoffen, we did have an argument with an iceberg with a Vanquish, and the iceberg unfortunately won.
We was doing a shot where we was going through between 2 glaciers, a gap of about 16 foot, which we wanted to take it through sideways. And we couldn't recce this area because we had a small snowfall and we didn't want to walk on it. Came through there and the back end of the car clipped an iceberg and it ended in tears, basically. 4 days off with a lump on my head.
I can't believe how hard icebergs are. I should have realised after seeing Titanic.
Join us after the break when we take our exclusive look behind the scenes to see how they made this car do this. And there'll be lots more from the Paris show. Welcome back to Paris. Like all good motor shows, it's jam-crammed full of great-looking models. Boom, boom! But there's also an absolute abomination here. Something so amazingly ugly, even its own mother wouldn't love it.
That's right, the Porsche Cayenne.
Without doubt, the most challenging look any of us have come across for a long time. Porsche, one of the world's most profitable car firms, have been suckered into following fashion and jumped on the big wagon bandwagon.
Trouble is, somebody forgot to tell them that it's not good enough just to jump on. You've got to look good too.
He's right. This just seems like a pointless pollution of the brand. The only saving grace is to see it as a way of earning extra profit out of fashion-conscious Americans. Then maybe it'll bankroll some more brilliant sports cars.
That's quite enough ugly motors for one show. Time for the Chrysler Crossfire. Based on a Mercedes SLK, it uses a 3.2-litre V6 and should cost around 25 grand when it comes to the UK in about 12 months' time.
Of course, up until a few months ago, the Crossfire was still a concept. But with tasty bits of kit like this getting the go-ahead, we should take the current crop of concepts very seriously indeed. Some boss in a trendy meeting might decide to OK it at any moment. Which one would you green light?
It seems the future is all about the past. The 70s-style Citroen C Airdream has the gears, brakes and throttle controlled by fancy pedals around the steering wheel. Renault's Ellipse uses a super clean diesel-electric hybrid and is meant to be a friendly car in a frightening world. Here's the Renault design chief, Patrick Lecaimont, telling us how good it is. In fact, he thinks it's a right laugh. But our favourite concept is the Eco Speedster, a dead clever diesel VX 220. It does 155 miles an hour and 113 miles per gallon. Blimey!
Back to the real world and boring old press conferences. We'd heard that Subaru were launching a restyled Impreza, and they'd made such a pig's ear of the last one, we were ready for another laugh here. Typical them that we should end up standing in front of the bloke who redesigned it. Peter Stevens. That should put paid to the fun.
But we needn't have worried. What a difference a headlamp makes. And a few well-judged bonnet scoops, and even a bit more power. How long now before Mitsubishi launched the Evo 8, or wheat, as Adrian would say?
Jaguar owners don't like change. That's why they're thrilled that the new XJ looks 100 years old. It's now not a poem in steel, but a poem in aluminium instead. And that makes it lighter, faster and more economical. It's also bigger and more well-appointed inside. Marvellous! Except it still looks 100 years old.
Now this is very special indeed. Here in this secret air-conditioned bunker full of odd-looking Germans in even odder suits is the most luxurious car in the world. It's named after the man who designed the first Mercedes, and it's what Daimler Chrysler hopes will make the Rolls-Royce look very silly indeed. Meet the Maybach. And who better to show us around this premium Merc than the man who sells them? Now pay attention.
Hello, I'm Leon Hustings. I'm responsible for the worldwide sales and marketing. And I would like to show you some of the nice features of the Maybach 62. Please follow me. So first of all, we're going to close the door. Because the door is so big, we just pull the button and the door closes automatically. So now to be comfortable, I will go into a other position, the sleeping position. You see even my legs are raising right now.
Hear that? Even his legs were raising. Amazing. Herr Hustings also told us your Maybach will come with 2 widescreen tellies, typically precision-engineered folding tables, check out that action, a sunroof that contains solar panels, 63 layers of wood on the dash, and the world's most elaborate mobile phone holder. You also get a V12 that accelerates to 60 a second quicker than a Focus RS. And if that's not enough, Maybach options include cigar humidors, wine goblets, and a rear blind that doesn't seem to close properly. Just as well, they throw in the servicing for free.
But even that isn't the car that we're getting most excited about. No, we'd save £140,000 and go for one of these, a Bentley Continental GT. This is just the sort of car Quentin points at Geneva and then pulls the trigger. It's hard to know exactly what's best about it. 180 miles an hour, seating for 4, a 6-litre twin-turbo W12, looks that blend muscle and style. None of those. The best thing is that it managed to impress the floppy-haired Ferrari boss, Luca di Montezemolo. Praise indeed. Au revoir for now. Tout le monde.
Back in July, Fifth Gear was invited to the Pinewood Studios backlot to witness the filming of one of the main action sequences in the latest Bond film, Die Another Day. Action Unit Director Vic Armstrong was busy setting the scene for one of the most dramatic stunt sequences in the film.
This behind me is the exterior of the Ice Palace, which I've shot the whole car chase on a frozen lake in Hoffen, which is east of Reykjavik in Iceland. And this is the exterior piece. Now, this is the moment the cars come off the ice lake and they burst into the interior of this Ice Palace. So on the way in, they take out the 2 skidoos in foreground. And then later on, we will have the end of the sequence, having done a whole chase inside the Ice Palace. It'll burst out through the wall and do, like, we've measured out about a 50-foot jump. We've got a double pipe ramp, so it'll jump about 50 foot and hopefully you don't bend it too much.
The car will need to hit this pipe ramp at exactly the right speed in order to smash through the wall and land in the right place. For stunt driver Ray DeHaan, it requires a steely nerve and maximum concentration, while for the Aston, there are yet more modifications.
Although we've removed the real screen, we've still got to protect Ray when he's going through the wall on the jump. So we put in a 10mm mackerel screen that's bolted in so none of the debris can actually get to him. We've got runners under the car to protect the underside of the car when he runs up the tube ramp. And we've raised the car slightly just to help it on its way again. For him inside, we've rolled the seat back so he's laying down 5-point harness. It just makes it easier for him when the car, if we do have a very heavy landing, then it's not going to jar his back or anything like that. He's strapped in wearing a hat and everything's padded that we can pad, so hopefully he'll be safe.
Conditions must be perfect before the 5 cameras used to capture the stunt can actually roll. Extra snow has been positioned to cushion the car's landing, and Ray has the opportunity of a few practice runs backstage. Only when Ray had satisfied himself that the setup was perfect was he happy to take his starting position.
Okay, Jonathan. And turn over. And action!
Ready? Very good, that's very good, isn't it? Definitely blew it up, but it's a nice level landing, wasn't it? Yeah. 2-wheel landing. Lovely. Okay. Move on. Well done, Ray. Thank you very much.
The car's modifications had done their job and the Vanquish had come through unscathed. Well, almost. Die Another Day goes on general release on the 22nd of November. But before that, make sure you tune in to a 5th Gear special featuring all of the Bond cars on November the 18th.
If you want to see more of Bond's Vanquish and the Buddies Jag in the flesh, they'll be at the Birmingham Motor Show in a couple of weeks' time, which is where we'll be too. But before that, next week, Tiff zooms off to California for the first tele-test of Nissan's gorgeous-looking new 350Z. And in the meantime, don't forget to try and win Quentin's Bentley.
Again, full details to be found on the 5th Gear website at www.5.tv/5thgear. Next tonight, the world's on the brink as some very unsavoury characters get their hands on the US president and the briefcase with which he can launch America's nuclear missiles. The race is on to prevent Armageddon. Our thriller, Chain of Command, starts in just a moment.
Another driver who's covered by car insurance from More Than, sponsors of 5th Gear.